fake. It's modelled on a monastic building, and we were never monastic. So some of the things I show you are monastic tools which were never used practically. The first of which is the cloister in which you've had your refreshments, and the second is the chapter house here, because in a conventional cathedral, the cloisters are on the south side for the monks to take recreation in the afternoon, and they got the afternoon sun. And you've got to wait till 7 o'clock at night to get the sun on this side. So they're not a practical cloister. What's a chapter house? A chapter house is a building in which the Benedictine rule met every day to read a chapter of the Rule of St. Benedict. Here we are, we've got a chapter house, but we never read the Rule of St. Benedict here. The St. Albans and other Durham, the near neighbours had these things, so they wanted to copy them. Parliament was held here on at least 2 occasions, and the first Prince of Wales was created Prince of Wales at a parliament in this building. The Knights Templar were disbanded in this bit of parliament, or in a court in this room rather, and since they've been reinstituted, the Knights Templar now meet twice a year in this room. And of course one of the exciting things we did in this room was to film part of the Da Vinci Code. They're filming in here. Ian McKellen sits on that table there and throws the cryptic rather, in the air. And Audrey Tautou and Tom Hanks are up kneeling on the floor, being teased. And we've done things with television before, but working with Hollywood was just something quite extraordinary. Tom Hanks brought his 2 sons with him, they were 9 and 11, and we used to give them things to do, go and find on treasure trails. And I sent them off with Tom Hanks on one occasion to find the cat and the mouse. I said, go and find the cat and the mouse and come back. And if you do it in 10 minutes, there'll be a prize. So they came back and they said, we found the cat and mouse. So I said, take me to see it. So Tom and his 2 sons brought me in here. I said, you're not even warm. But we found the cat and mouse, they said. So they brought me across to here and showed that it was Tom Hanks who introduced me to this cat and mouse here, if you can see it, beyond the cobwebs and the dust which get back in the office. But there's the cat and the mouse. I hadn't seen that before, so I then had to take them and show them my cat and mouse. I was trying to show them was this cat and mouse here, where it really is a sort of a lion, but the mouse is much more. Being a Minster church, we looked after people's body, mind and spirit. So what's now the treasury, and we'll pick in the treasury a little later, was a dispensary. So they grew the herbs there, mixed them in the treasury and dispensed them. And here you can see somebody must have come for his tincture for toothache, and he's saying, he's pointing in his mouth and saying, there's that one there, Governor, that hurts. Right guys, this is the point of going up. We're going to go up in stages. We're going to go up across some fairly tight ledges. I wouldn't put you in danger, and I wouldn't take you anywhere that I wasn't happy going myself. But if you do feel queasy and unsteady, let me know, and we can get you down and then carry on. We're going to go into 2 chambers that are pitch black and no electricity. So you'll need to have your torch. The other thing about this staircase, there's only 2 staircases like this in the cathedral, in that it goes anti-clockwise. If your enemies get in and have been attacked, this is not a good staircase to be in, because if our friend there's got his sword and is right-handed, thank you, he can get to me, but I can't get to him because I hit the money. And of course, in those days, everybody was right-handed. Because if you were left-handed, you were put to death because you were a witch or a wizard. This is my favourite glass in the cathedral, 18th century, 1762 there. All of the details that they put in the carvings up here are just as good quality as down on the floor. Nothing was spared. This is the exception to the rule. You see the plain glass at the bottom. Some people think, it had been damaged for a while and they've been just replaced with plain glass. But when you're on the floor of the cathedral and you look up, the angle is such you never see the bottom glass. So they thought, why put stained glass there? This is a fireplace, and it's by Christopher Wren, and it was originally in the library. Watch this step when you come down. Some of the best graffiti I think we've got, in that we've got a memorial here to the Buzzley Birds. We can learn a lot from graffiti. This door that you're coming through now is the oldest door in the cathedral. We believe it's the 12th century, 1100s. Across here we've got the original organ console. This is Father Willis's the first organ console, put in 1898 and replaced in the 1930s. So you're coming through now into the organ, and everybody thinks of the organ as the gold case. And these are some of the biggest organ types we've got. The biggest is down here, 32 feet. This is the one that when he puts his left foot down and you get and it's so low your ears go as if the plane's taken off. This is the 32-foot biggest one. And what they've done here to get the extra length, you can see they put a return on the top of these ones.
Oh, they get over and back down again.
We're going to work our way into the nave triforium, but we're going to go through this little passage here and then along a thin passageway underneath the Dean's Eye window, with the Griz Eye windows to your right. That's some of the oldest glass in the cathedral. That's early 12th century. And comparable with the Griz Eye window in York, but York's is bigger, but not better than that. Not the oldest glass in the country. York says they've got some glass 1127, but if you want proper glass, ancient glass, go to Jarrow. The 7th century glass. I'm not that of a bias now. The nice thing to do, if you're brave enough, is when you get along there, find a niche and just turn to your left and then have a look across the transept and just look down there. They are bats, oh yes. In fact, last week there was some flying around us, but we were a little bit later. We looked to have a trick question with children, how many bricks it took to build this big building. And of course the answer is not one, it's all built in stone, apart from this little brick wall here. And we've no idea why that's there. We're entering into the original west front of the cathedral. When Remigius came, what was he commissioned to do? Some people think this is a church, first and foremost. Some people think it's domicile, first and foremost. Other people say it's a defence, first and foremost. We're going to go into these chambers up here and have a rummage around and show you the raw Norman, probably 80% pure Norman. To my left is the outer wall of the west front, which is the later skin. But here you've got the original west wall of the cathedral, and you can see the original Norman arcade there, which is quite fantastic, and this ridge. You get lots of these chambers roundabout. On the south side, they're a little easier to interpret. But you had these little chambers in which people lived or stored things, or they were part of the domicile building. A lot of the passages, especially when you go down the other side, you see they've been blocked off because they're just too darn dangerous. Right, if you want to come up, guys, do be careful because it gets a little more exciting. We're not going to go out here, but just have a look out here.
Oh, heavens
And if you look up, you're nowhere near halfway yet, with all these chambers and other little levels and the bells in can see some of the old Norman pure preserved because it's inside here. You see some decorated Norman there.
So we can just see where we are.
Yeah. In the minute, we're right in the centre, and see this window here? That's it there. This window's here. And that one there.
Oh, you are here.
Yes.
Well, I told you had as much above you, didn't you?
Yeah, you did, yes.
These two spires were taken down. The middle one fell down, and you can still see that these days because it's in my garden and it's a rockery. When you're on the floor of the cathedral and you're looking up at the roof, you're actually not looking at the roof, you're looking at the ceiling because the roof's another 40 feet above you. And if you walk, we can walk along the ridge of the ceiling. Up here you can see some of this wood in storage. We've got an agreement with some of the landowners to give us to allot trees and fell them and put them here, so that it's seasoned to the atmosphere here. So when we use it, it's not going to twist, and it's already acclimatized to it. Norman Bonner, who retired about a year and a half ago, when he was an apprentice, he remembered this wood being brought up here to season, and at the end of his career, he was using it to repair some of the wood higher up. So we'll go out onto the western parapet now. When we come out here, if you want to look at anything behind you, turn around and look. Don't walk backwards because the floor has got ridges on it. You can see how small Lincoln is. You know. Look at the white and yellow house. Yeah. Which looks as if it should be on the coast at St Ives. That chap's building that himself. You look at the Exchequer Gate Arch, which is an interesting arch. It's a triumphant arch. When you come in the northern side, you're coming through the crucifixion, and you've got the dice and the spears and the whips and the sturgeon. And when you go out the south side, which is the resurrection, you see the angels and lilies and things like that. And then on high days and holy days, the processions were triumphal, and they came through that triumphal arch. More of that when we get on terra firma. We're going to go into some of those, or maybe two of those chambers that we think we can prove that this building was A, domicile, and B, a fortress. Not least because when we get to maybe halfway down, the staircase gets much wider, and it really was a fighting staircase where you could get your sword round. And the very bottom staircase, unusually, you'd think the bottom one would be the oldest, but the bottom staircase is, is an addition, because they didn't have a staircase going right to the ground, because they had ladders to get up into this part, and then they could lift up to protect them. It's pretty tight to start with, but it gets better. And this is some evidence of how this was a defence area, and not maybe you can imagine when Stephen and Matilda were having their battles out there, and you can imagine these lancets with bows and arrows showering down. We're going to go out onto Banks View now. It's not quite as narrow as the Grisaille parapet that we went across, but it is higher. Well, it's called Banks's View. It's Sir Joseph Banks, the great trower and botanist. When he was in England, we're told he would sit here and sketch the cathedral. When the cathedral fell down by fair means or foul, all that was left was the west front in which we stood. And instead of starting with what they had, they started with what they wanted, and what they needed was down there was an altar, and they worked back towards the west, and you can see here they didn't quite get it right. And this is called the nave. It comes from the Latin navus, and the navy as it ships its vessels, and if you turn this upside down it becomes the hull of a ship. And if you've got a keen eye, you'll see the east window just goes off to the left about 1/2 degree. Very, very small twist to the left. That's intentional to represent the head of Christ dying. What you get here is what you should get on the floor of the cathedral, because it's designed to be able to see right through to the East End. And the Victorians in the 1890s came along and put the organ on there, and it blocked that route. And we had a pop group here called Delirious, a Christian pop group. And we had 2,000 people in the nave moshing to Delirious on a big stage with ghetto blasters, woofers, subwoofers, smoke machines, the lot, and the light show. So I said, let's go to Banks of View and look down. And all the lights were dim and there was a lot of colour. And the noise was tremendous. And we just felt this window. And it was going... And I said, Mr. Dean, I think we ought not be here. We're in the return of Remigius's west front. We think this was Remigius' bedroom. There's only 2 fires, evidence of 2 fires in the cathedral. Not fires as in burning down, fires as in sources of heat. And one of the evidences is below us in the calefactory. And we think they've had a Roman ducting system that's come up here and gone up to other chambers up there. And of course, the more important you are, the nearer the salt you are, so you're nearer the warmth. But again, graffiti, we talked about graffiti earlier, some lovely graffiti here. You can see this Pieta here, and we don't know what's behind there. Every generation leaves something. There's a lovely little Mary Quant daisy there. This is the most miserable angel I've ever seen. Here you can see it. You're now standing in the calefactory, and this is where the fire was and where the ducting went through, and then another set of ducting went to the chamber that we were in. And this is the modern staircase here, much later, not at all Norman, and the window just by you there, David, that was the source of entry into this area of the cathedral. So it was probably a rope ladder that they came up here in, and then they could, in times of when they needed to be defending themselves, they pulled it up and they were fairly safe. But please do be careful as you're coming down. Not many people get into this chapel. You can see the original Norman exterior here. The Elizabethan chamber there is nothing more than a dog kennel. So it's early Prime intervention. So you've got those pilgrims who arrived in Lincoln through the triumphant arch or the heaven and hell outside, coming through the Great West Door. The first thing you see is this thing here. It came in 1104 from Belgium. Baptism is a symbol of welcome into the church. The font next to the main door. We're very blessed here in that not having much impedimenta in the nave. We've only got 5 memorials in the nave. And then this great screen, busy and very detailed. And originally, it was coloured blue, red, and gold. My favourite chapter is here. Google the Ballad of Barnaby when you get home tonight. W.H. Auden, Ballad of Barnaby. He can't sing, he can't pray, he can't read, but he can tumble for God. Then where I come from, this chap here, we call this Crowkin your Creels. He's doing a roll over there. So these are my Barnabys who are tumbling for God. You can only do your best, and that was his best. And of course, it was literally defaced in the 17th century when the Puritans came along, and they knocked all the faces off these figures. Come on in. And there's a lot of humour in the carvings here, and this is what they thought of the precentor. They thought he was a monkey. And here he is here with a butter churn, creaming off the best for himself. So this is what they wanted to do to the precentor. There he is there with a noose round his neck, and there's the monkey lying in his coffin. He's on his beard, and they've given him a decent burial. I think this frog had listened to one sermon too many. He's got a dagger, And he's dragging himself in the no more. And there's a constipated monk along here. I don't think he's constipated. There's a lovely dragon, but a boar there. We've only got one vestry in the cathedral, built as a vestry, and it's this room here. And this is a chasuble. This is one of our Sunday chasubles. And theoretically, these are still illegal in the Church of England in cathedrals. And you all heard of Nosy Parker. And Nosy Parker, Archbishop Parker, used to be Bishop of Lincoln. He became Archbishop of Canterbury under Elizabeth I, and they outlawed the use of chasubles in cathedrals, and we always wore copes until Gavin came. He reintroduced chasubles into a cathedral. So it's a semicircular garment. And because we have so many saints' days, it would cost a fortune to have one for every saint's day. So we invented something called a pallium orphrey. Good Friday, Palm Sunday. This is Corpus Christi. With the pelican in its piety and the bread and wine there. Like an old angel, Epiphany, Harvest, Trinity. We've got the cathedral seal, 17th century. Seals in there, but it can't be got at without two keys. The dean has one key, the chapter clerk has another, so no one person can sign a seal a cathedral document. If you come to Evensong, we pray for people who are members of the foundation. When you croak it, you get your name put in this. We've got people murdered in this place in 1247. If we look at 29th of December, Thomas Becket was a canon of Lincoln Cathedral, and so in Evensong we pray for Thomas Becket, canon of Lincoln Cathedral, Archbishop of Canterbury, murdered on this day in Canterbury Cathedral in 1170. I came here from Carlisle, and the only bishop brave enough to crown Elizabeth I was Bishop Oglethorpe of Carlisle. And my verge that I used in Carlisle, I'll show you one later, was made for Queen Elizabeth's coronation. And Oglethorpe had been a canon here, so on New Year's Eve we pray for Owen Oglethorpe, Prebendary of Lather, President of Magdalen College, Oxford, and later Bishop of Carlisle. He crowned Elizabeth I in 1559, the same year that he died. But I'm always glad when I get past the 29th of September, because on that night we pray for 3 Dean's Vergers. So if I get past the nuntimates, I know I'm all right. So all of this area here is designed to be a shrine for St. Hugh, and his shrine was high and lifted up in the centre here. And he was quite an important man. He had the confidence, but also the fear of the king. And there was 3 kings carried his body at his funeral. When they carried his body from my vestry to here, the unthinkable happened. His head dropped off. So they built a head shrine for his head there, and we had the body shrine here. And in the 17th century, the body shrine disappeared. We don't know what happened to the body. Legend has it that Cromwell's men were on the way, they knew about it, so they took Hugh's body and put it somewhere and forgot to leave a note. His head shrine had a pinnacle on the top, rather like Wordsworth's there, to lift your eyes heavenward. That went in the 17th century, and this is a 1970s modern adaptation. And when you look at heaven, you can see it. It's surrounded by the angels of heaven. Angels represent good, but you can't believe in good unless you acknowledge evil. So evil is represented by the deity there, the devil. There's plenty of good, plenty of angels, but there's only one devil. And these were designed so the pilgrim could get as close to the relic of the saint without touching it. So they were like little chapels in themselves. Legend has it that after they paid homage to the saint, here there was a vat of salt. And before they walked away, they picked up some salt and threw it over the shoulder. So what are they doing? They're blinding the devil so he can't follow them out into the world. And this is the result of that. When they're genuflected to the saint and they bid him goodbye, you can see sort of a pestle and mortar is ground away there. The whole of this area is being developed at the minute. We're experimenting. It's always been a bit of a backwater. We've commissioned someone to put plans in for new furniture. And over the chapel over there, we're developing a Mary area with a lot of support from the Roman Catholic. We call this the Gilbert area. And this developed in the 1970s. It was quite revolutionary at the time because it introduced candles into Anglican tradition, and it's designed based on Gilbert of Sentringham, who was a 12th century monastic. He died aged 111, we're told. It was a dual gender monastery, men and women, and I'm sorry ladies, but the men are represented by these very handsome, tall, slim folks.
You can tell which the ladies are.
And the ladies are the more curvaceous.
They're the extent of the potter's wheel, aren't they?
That's right. We can't go any higher than that. Although it's all we can't. But Gilbert himself was a midget and he had a skin complaint. And this is Gilbert here. Here we've got what we think is 15th century in landlocked Lincoln. And you've got to come and look here, and you can see behind me here on the wall a ship in full sail.
It's the R.I.
1735. We've got the Queen's champion lives in the county, doesn't he? Colonel Dimmock, he's the Queen's champion, fights the Queen's battle. We've got the Lord Lieutenant, and we've got the High Sheriff, but we've also got the Lord High Warrener. This knight here was one of the Lord High Warreners. When rabbits were a protected species because food was scarce, and he protected the rabbits, and then he's buried with his head lying on a bunny rabbit. Every night we ring curfew because of this man here, Bishop Fleming. He founded Lincoln College, Oxford, with 101 students. And every night, either at 8 o'clock in the summer or 6 o'clock in the winter, we ring the bell 101 times. He's got a chasuble, tuna, lawn, a dalmatic. He's got his sanctuary slippers and jeweled gloves, and he's been wafted to heaven by angels. But whether you're a king or a commoner, a prince or a pauper, we all end up the same way. And I'm talking to a group of 12-year-old boys from Oakham, and I'm telling them the story of this. And I said, what do you think the moral of this story is? And one lad put his hand up and said, please, sir, never sleep on the bottom bunk. This is the bridge of the cathedral. So this is the ferretry. This is the room where the ferretry is a repository for old bones, and this is where Hugh was originally buried, and I'm old bones now because it's my vestry. I talked about Virgin Carlisle Cathedral being made for the coronation of Elizabeth I. This is my Virg that I use here. This one was made in 1666. So I lead the procession with this. And our friend Godolphin over there, Mr. Godolphin, he's buried in Westminster Abbey. And he's a remnant of the Da Vinci Code. He's polystyrene. So, and then that's that behind.